Okay, I'm just gonna check my audio and then we'll start. Let me figure out where I was. Oh yeah, I was doing the back sprite for the skeleton, going back to doing some pixel art. Um, Still working on a pretty big refactor for the UI. Well, for everything really. Um, Upgraded to Godot 4.4, and then now we're enforcing static typing across all of our code. So I had to go in and find all the places where I didn't have types in, and did that last stream. Then that allowed everything to be cleaner, and I did a big refactor. Not a big refactor, actually. Pretty small refactor. But it helped clean everything up and help me fix some bugs, which I've been doing. And we're starting the stream a little bit late because I think I just want to work on that a little bit off stream a little more. Every time I try to launch the window in OBS, if I encounter a bug, some of them are crash bugs, so it just slows everything down. So, yeah, I just kind of got into it before stream and kept going. It's actually coming along pretty good. There's only a few left that I need to handle. But I just thought I'd do a little bit of a chill stream. So last time I did pixel art anyway, or not really. I did some UI stuff too, but I was working on this backsprite for this skeleton, and I'm just gonna keep going with that. I don't have the thing. Yeah, I do. This thing to plug into my Mac, my tablet. I don't know if I'll use it. Last time I found it uncomfortable to have while I was streaming too, but we'll see. I should have plugged this in before. I thought I wasn't going to use it, and now I kind of want to. All right. Okay, there we go. Drawing tablet. Okay, so let's see. Where were we at? We got the sword and the loincloth, and then we're kind of working on maybe the hand, but we got the back jaw there. Could do the spine, just because it pops out the most. All right. I mean, the skull's kind of easy too. Let's see. Yeah, well, let's start with... I'm not sure how this should attach. I kind of have like the form of the spine, but let's see. I'm gonna just like Google some reference like the back of a skeleton. I mean, it's pretty abstracted, but yeah, okay. I mean, it really looks nothing like this, but I think I'll end up with that more in like the pixel details of it. Yeah, let's do the spine. So what I think I'll do is maybe divide it into sections. Let's see. Let's see if I can get those consistent. Maybe I should start off frame one, actually. It is perfectly straight, so it's quite easier to work with. These shapes will be abstracted more, but I'm trying to figure out like the sort of shape logic of it. And like how many sections would be distinct once I pattern them out. Okay. That looks okay as like a sectioned out base. So I guess we would take that logic of like at the top maybe a body of 3 with 1 pointing out and then 2 pointing at the bottom. And or just track the motion of the bottom here, I suppose. And then everything above that would be into the base of the spine. Almost looks like it's pulling up a bit. So that's a detail we can adjust, but I mean, the whole spine is essentially just like bending to the side a bit, but roughly staying in the same place. And there's 1, 2, 3 pixels between those two. 1, 2, 3. That would take us here, but I think maybe we want it there. No, actually. Maybe it does change a little bit. As it's bending. I suppose that's what we've got. Two, 3. That would take us here, and then. Hi, Tysons. Pretty good. I'm just working on a bit of pixel art. Doing the backsprite for the skeleton animation. So I have this for when enemies summon a minion, well, a skeleton. And then when you summon one, we're going to see it from the back. So I'm trying to translate all that to a backsprite. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was taking a break from code stream because I'm still working out some UI bugs. I did some last stream and it was I put in like static typing to everything, and that made it easier to go in and refactor some stuff, which I've done, but I'm still working through some bugs that are a consequence of that. So yeah, it will like crash when I encounter one, and that it was just happening too frequently to go on stream today. With I was going to, and then I was like just kind of working on it, and I was just not launching stream, so I had a late start, and I was like, why don't we just do a chill one where I work on some pixel art, and then hopefully a lot of those bugs should be worked out by the next time I want to do a code stream. So I'm going through like the spine here and just like sectioning it out before I shade and like shape it with like pixel details. And I'm just trying to find out like how many sections make sense. And just trying to keep like the motion consistent between frames. Just to give me an idea of the shape of everything. Don't want to end up like Mason from Black Ops 1. The numbers, Mason, what do they mean? Yeah, you could drive yourself crazy with code when Especially, I mean, my whole problem was I didn't know what they mean because I didn't have typing in there. And now I do. You've been attacking UI the last 2 days as well? Yeah. Yeah. It's the hardest part. And I keep being stuck on it, so I need to take breaks if I'm gonna mix up what I'm doing on stream a bit. And I've just been doing more of the UI privately. Like I'm showing it, but I'm like, at some point it gets excessive when I've really got spaghetti. Where like if people tune in and it's like it's all I'm doing every day, and it just exposes how damn broken it is. I really ended up with some spaghetti um, from basically like learning as I go, which is fine, but like putting it in and just kind of like every time slapping on whatever works and just leaving it that way for a while. So it was overdue for a big refactor. Trying to make your own grid system inventory like Diablo, but not for that type of game it's normally used for. Cool. Yeah, I've got, well, my inventory is just a list, but in the battle I had it shown in two columns to save space, and then trying to figure out that grid was interesting with like just the math of it, where I didn't want a full grid where like I don't want you to be able to okay, so let's say you have 4x4, but you only have um 13 items, so the last row just has one item in it. Do links work? Yeah, probably. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I see it. Let me see. I don't usually have a browser set up, but put that up. Okay, I would have to go in and resize it, but yeah, so this is it. Cool. Oh, and then the numbers there with the count. Okay, interesting. Is this the cursor right here? Like the, oh, it's like the probably the item you have picked up, eh? Cool. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, you've got the full grid. I see. I was trying to solve the problem of like I was populating my items list with however many items I have, and let's say it's, well, it was 2 columns, but let's say it was 4, and because I wanted this grid like generalized in case I use it somewhere else in the game. Of like, let's say the last row is not full, and I didn't want you to be able to like navigate to the other squares in mine necessarily. Like if you have a full grid and you're able to use the empty cells, that would be fine. But in mine, I'm just like, I just want you to like tick down the list or like go to the next one. So I was trying to figure out the math of like, how do you figure out like different columns and different rows have different lengths because some of them might not be full. That like the arrow would just take you to the next one, or like it was more confusing than I thought it would be. I'm gonna just clear out that highlight because that was very roughed out. I guess we could have some actual white on the spine so it's highlighted. It's kind of gonna draw your attention. Went through the effort to build the GitHub free version of Sprite as well. Yeah, I probably could figure that out, but I paid for it for convenience. And I guess to support them, although I bought it before I actually had used it, so. I find it's cool that they allow that. I find it's recommended to a lot of people who are like just getting into game dev, and a lot of them, like you see posts online. It seems like a lot of people are either very new, some of them very young too, or like they're like, yeah, you know, because I've seen people, especially, you know, somebody will post on Reddit and they're like, I'm 15 and I'm starting making games, and I can't afford the $20 for Sprite, and then somebody will point them to go like compile it, and it's like that's super cool of Sprite, but I think a lot of people are like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know GitHub. I haven't done that before, right? And I haven't gone through the process, even though I am a programmer, because I just paid for it. So I don't know if it's like straightforward either, even from that perspective. Okay, so I'm trying to, now that I've had it in each section where it was like one white, one yellow, one white, one yellow, now I'm trying to divide them all with like a darker line and then give it some shading. I'm not quite liking how it looks yet. Okay, and the base of the neck here would probably be really dark, and then Code for sure. Because I have a CS degree, and I should read chat out loud. I know I'm just here chatting with you right now, but yeah, you would you say you're stronger in art or UI, or stronger in UI art or code? Definitely code. Oh, because I have a computer science degree. Like I went through and did programming for 4 years, but art is just something I like dabbled with. Like I did a bit of pixel art like for fun as a kid. I'll just put a little shade line here. This is just helping. Like sometimes I separate the parts out by like blocked out colors, but if they're touching something that's the same color or you want to shade it, then it could end up the same color. So I'm gonna like make it darker to delineate where the spine is from the rib cage. It's just something I did for fun as a kid a little bit, and then I'm learning it for the sake of my game. I'm pretty happy with like what I can do, but yeah, this is all like maybe oh, thank you. I'd 100% be a dev you'd hire. Just really talented all around, to be honest. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think the art is like, I'm figuring it out as I go. But like, I look at this and I'm like, I'm proud of it. I'm straight up proud of it. Because, you know, modest to a degree, but I'll be like, I can look at this and be like, I did a good job. It takes a long time. Like that probably took... This animation took me 10 hours, I think, if I remember correctly. And I just do it like really meticulously, and I learned everything from like really a year ago, taking it seriously, from YouTubers like Adam C. Jonas, who's really good with pixel art stuff, and I find he's a really good teacher when he's talking about the concepts. And a couple of more like smaller little, because he has longer videos. Like there's one I kept going back to that was like half an hour on color theory, and you know, I kept revisiting that. There was another guy, Brandon James Greer, who's on YouTube, who has like really short videos. A lot of them are like, you know, he just does a little thing that he's interested in, you know, like, oh, I'm going to animate this character sprite or this like building or different styles of stuff just for fun. So a lot of his short videos are just like projects that he did, but there was a few that were illustrating a concept that I thought was really interesting in like a short, like bite-sized piece. There was one where he did a Mario sprite and then he just kept adding colors to it until you don't get any more, like it's diminishing returns. Like 3-color sprite, you know, you upgrade to a 4-color sprite, you can easily add a color that makes sense and like expresses more than 5 colors. Like you can find places that express more details with 5 colors and 6 colors. And then there was a point where you add more colors and it doesn't do anything. And I thought that was a really good illustration, that video, of when to add more colors to your palette and when it just doesn't get you anything. So that was a fun one. And yeah, I just thought it illustrated the concept really well. Yeah, the pedal runner video that you loved watching and taught you a lot about where colors and where they make a huge difference. Yep, yep, he's got bite-sized videos, and I think he's really great at communicating that type of thing in a short amount of time. And then for like long form learning, a few of his videos, but like the color theory video from Adam C. Jonas was like really great. And that was kind of just what I went off of, and I just kept rewatching them. And then it was because you don't want to get stuck into tutorial hell, just like game dev and coding, because you can watch a bunch of videos on like how to do something exactly, and then you might know how to reproduce that exactly, but you might not know how to like go off on your own and do your own thing. Pixel art can be the same way. So it was a lot of, I learned stuff and then I had to get out of my own head of like not thinking of myself as an artist, because I have like training in science, and then I learned code at school, but I never thought I was an artist. So you tend to think you can't do it. But then you just have to, if you need to make your own art for your game, you got to just sit down and start doing it and doing it. Like I got really stuck in doing, and I do this a lot. And I did do this a lot before I started making my own game, especially of sitting down and maybe drawing something kind of, and it ends up being a doodle, and then just being like, I'm not happy with that and throwing it away. But and not finishing something for that reason, but sitting down and being like, I'm going to make like a 5-frame animation that's pretty detailed because that's how I want it to look, and I'm just going to like work the details until it's done. Because that's what really helped. I think this coloration makes sense once I do the other frames and get them consistent with it. This shading's going to change once I actually shade the rib cage, and then maybe it might warrant like some texture to the spine this way. Like, oh, that looks pretty good actually. Oh yeah, some shape. Okay, I like that. Because it is a lot of work, these sprites. I do like 80 by 80, and then they're like this level of detail. Like I could do, I could have done a sprite in this size, but I wanted like, you know battle sprites for an RPG that reminded me of, Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy or Shin Megami Tensei, that are like an actual character portrait with some reasonable detail. Part of what I mean, I do compensate for some of my lack of ability in that, like, the way to like work it until it looks this good is like a lot of the details between frames are actually rough if you really, really take a look, but the roughness is intentional, and I'm using a style that I can do where I'm like, it reminds me of like old like PC game graphics or like older RPGs where it can look a little rough. And I'm intentionally not using a style with hard lines too, so that imperfections kind of blend together and it's like, it's okay. Oh my god, Dragon Quest was so good. Old but good. Reminds me of Adventure Quest Worlds. Yep. I've played 11, which was the, most recent one, but then I went back and played them from the beginning up till 6. So I played 1 through 6. And I love them. They're so good. 8 is supposed to be another one that's like super well regarded. But I don't really, for RPGs, I'm a big RPG head, and I haven't gotten around to all the ones I want to, but that's partly because I do play series from the beginning generally, where I don't like pick out highlights. I'm still waiting on like, eventually I'll play through 7 and 8. I jumped ahead to 9 for some reason. I don't remember why I chose to, but it was pretty good. Okay, so I guess that's the shade on that side. I guess I need bottom edge. But yeah, Dragon Quest is it's very like simple classic RPG, but I love how simple it is. And that like each game you know what you're getting. Like Final Fantasy loves to mix it up and have different game mechanics, and that's awesome too. But Dragon Quest is just cozy. You know what to expect. When you want just a game to just grind out and play a JRPG, Dragon Quest really hits a spot. Maybe I'll keep that bottom one. Like, I was going lighter on the shading, even on the darker line on this side of the spine, but I'm going to keep it down here for a second because I might drop some like connective area here. The old school pixel games like that were good. Most were TBH. Yep. I mean, that's really what my game's going for, is like that style. I think especially because of my I like the art style that I've developed over the past year, I'll say, but I think it's an art style that's like embraces imperfection, let's say. And I think I want to be reminiscent of those games that are even a little bit uglier or rough around the edges. Probably put some of those edges here on the opposite side as well. There's some stuff around the arm here that might end up as part of like the junction between the rib cage and the arm when I do those details, but for the most part between these two frames it looks fairly consistent. This needs to be darker underneath. Maybe this needs to be darker on that frame. Yeah, not bad. This side's like unfinished. It's just like a straight line, but yeah, not bad. I think I can figure out the best way to overlay that with a spike after I've done the shading on the rib cage here. White might be the one that stands out the best. Or maybe even just, I don't know. That gets a little muddy. Depends on how the shading ends up. How's that? Yeah, not bad. Probably will help a bit once I add these in. I think I made it stretch out a bit where like now it looks like those spines are getting a little longer. So maybe it's more of that type of thing. Even still. Um, that looks a bit better. Actually, this one just kind of looks like it stays in the same place. Not perfect, but complex shapes are sometimes hard to resolve like that. This one should be the easiest. I don't know if I want it to look like perfectly straight. I might mess with the shading a little bit. But the pattern should be relatively straightforward on this. All right. Maybe rough that up a bit, and then maybe there's a couple places where that shadow comes in more. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. That was four frames of the spine done already? No, okay, good. Then this one, we're gonna have that darker yellow pretty heavy into here. I think the head over, or like bending back and overlapping it should add more shadow. And then a little bit on that. Did that get too muddy after it twists that much? Let's see. It's okay. I think around the bottom is where it's the most questionable. Probably that. Maybe a little bit more there. Oh, this is That's a bit strange. That part right there looks like it gets bigger, but we can sort of mitigate that by encroaching on it with shadow more. So it actually looks like it moves instead of gets bigger. It like has to shift down a bit to accommodate everything, but that looks a little more consistent. I should add a loop. Usually have it ping pong. What's standing out to me is on the right side of it, that like solid line of shadow, which I am actually going to get rid of, but the rest of it looks okay. A little muddy, but like I think pretty okay. It's hard to get those little segmented pieces all correct. Okay. Right. So what's the base color of the rib? I mean, the rib is pretty light from the front, but it could be like shaded since it's a bit more covered up by the arms and the spine itself, or at least there should be shade on this side. So maybe that's our base color, which yeah, it already is. Okay. So right here, every frame of this, we have a center, like the sternum, and then we have three, maybe four, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like an edge on the bottom has a bit of a highlight to give it a bit of depth. And it's sort of spider webs out from the sternum, which would be about here. And then they'd wrap around the back, I guess. Wait, let me look at the back of a skeleton again. I mean, kind of. Yeah, they just loop around. But the trajectory of them can look different from the back, so... Also, I think having these banded and then that banded with the spine, we didn't really have that problem from the front because the only bands were the ribcage themselves. So we kind of have to come up with a pattern that's different than what we have going on here, because I don't want the lines of the rib cage to line up with the lines of the spinal sections, because if you want to show the two objects are different, you need contrast either in color or in texture or shape. But yeah, I mean, when something is the same color and you want to delineate two different areas, like you can have a contrast in texture. So if this was, for example, this whole section, you know, some of the shading on this spine is this shade of yellow, and then some of this is going to be yellow. But if it were, you know, a section that happened to be polka dotted, I mean, you'll still read that as two different objects. My problem is it's about making those decisions of like, I want this to be maybe roughly 4 bands of ribs, but trying to communicate that where it doesn't interfere with this spine, which is also banded. So I think color is a place to start where, okay, you could say the base mid-tone of the spine is this, and then you have white highlight right here. I mean, if this were my second color right there, that would not contrast very well with the highlight of the spine. It almost looked like it could be a highlight of something coming off of here. So 2 shades down is a better place to start, which is what we're doing. And then over here, I guess 2 shades down from this would be a good place to start as well, which I guess is also what we're doing. But maybe not the whole, you don't need it's not like these 2 halves of the rib cage are 2 different colors, but like the shadow on this edge being 2 shades down, because usually when you have the same object, it's transitioning through shades, if it's a sphere, well, 1 shade down at a time. So this, and then, well, this is actually like a hard line where it's like that top skull is separated. A better example, I guess, is this. So here, do I have an invisible cursor? This white down to this, this, and then when you get darker, you go to this tone and this tone. If it's transitioning more than 1 shade at a time, like if it's the same object and then you're going through shades, then it would transition like 1 shade at a time usually. But if you're doing more than that, then it can be a hard, it can appear as a hard line. So that helps separate it. Well, this might be under the arm. It might be shaded less than that. No, I mean, right close to the arm, it probably wouldn't be. So we can have this, and then maybe, I don't know if 2 pixels is too much shading of that. Well, I mean, I guess it would come out, this part would come out. Yeah, so I mean, I can have a bit of a highlight here as if it's like a point, and then underneath, like behind that spine, you got 2 shades down, and then it really doesn't overlap with any of these. And then close to the spine, you can even go darker because it's so occluded. And then maybe we could start the suggestion of the banding, like, maybe farther away from the spine, and then it gives the impression. I think, let me undo some of that because I think I did too much. Like what I needed, I like to do it in steps where if I remember exactly what I did on 1 frame, then the next frame can follow the same logic. So I guess we'll just start with this. So basically 2 pixels from the spine and then just kind of like along the arm. And then we just see if that shadow makes sense. It's easier to see in the little preview window here. That only looks like it gets thicker because we have the spines here on the. I keep saying spine. It's the spines on the spine, like the little nubs on the spine that come out and then they're gone. So it looks like it gets thicker, but overall, not bad volume. This one looks like it needs to have a bit more thickness. And then that definitely does. Okay. So this, I guess, can add a few of them here. Some of them are a little harder to see. I don't know if that's too wide. No, it looks pretty wide even from this. It was using this color to stand out from the previous frame, but then it's right next to the color here, so I'll just do more of a highlight. Maybe even a little more wide. Oh, that's too much. There's a lot of weird shape changing going on with this vertebra. Okay, it gets too long around here, so like this looks more like it's shifting. There's compromises that I need to make between frames, and it's a bit I don't know, the animation's a bit liquid, but that is a better thing than what I had before. All right. It's probably going to be some shading under this arm. Even a little between the vertebra here, but not too crazy. Actually, I probably should have went for this kind of color. I guess I can give the impression of ribs by drawing in that now. Yeah. I mean, that's alright. Shape-wise. It's harder to do it around, like, under the arms than, like, right by the spine, but we might be able to work with this. But right now, I'm, like, putting a pixel underneath these little nubs and then kind of coming out from there is the rule, and bending up to get to this kind of an area. And then having this behind the arm blocked out and just trying to make these lines feel a bit smoother. I mean, yeah, that's not bad. Um, okay, so that's only two colors. We don't want to have like super highlights near the spine because then it's going to get muddy with the spine. So we can go darker in some areas. So like, yeah, right under the arms. And like right by the shoulder would be a good place. I guess right under these. That makes sense to me. I mean, it's hmm. Feels like it should be darker like on the inside, but like maybe everything around here should come down a tone just because we're looking inside of something that should be a bit hard to see into. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, like that, I like that better, I think. That's looking better. Oh yeah. Okay. That's a lot of good contrast going on there. I just did a lot there, so to try to get it consistent is a bit more of a problem, but I like these sort of like L and T shapes that look like more of a connective junction. So I'm going to do my best to like copy the spirit of them. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, I like it so far. Okay. Might have to color over that with the shoulder blade a bit. Because I feel like I'm warping the shape of it, but I can just go over it. Okay. I feel like maybe this is all part of the shoulder blade. Shoulder blade's going to be more prominent, and then it's going to cover up some of those imperfections. Okay, that. Let's see. Okay, I'll lighten this up on every frame a little bit. Partly because I feel like it's not going to super matter anyway. So I might have to draw a larger shoulder blade over it anyway. Well, I do want that shadow a little bit. Okay, well, it's close enough. Not bad. Okay, so what I was saying, I guess what I ended up doing is to give the impression of bands, instead of really actually texturing it all out, like doing 4 clear bands that like aligned with the spine and then shading them each. It's more shadow around this edge. Um, like there are bands, but like it's overall from a base color that's darker than the spine, and then the strongest parts are these ones that come out and just give the impression of the start of the separation there. Um, and then your eye kind of fills out the rest. I can tell, look at the left arm there, how much thicker it gets, so that needs a bit of workshopping. I guess maybe from the front. What's the problem here? Oh, I guess it comes out from behind the body a bit on this frame, but that'll look weird from the back. I mean, I guess what I could have done here is maybe use up a bit more of that space. All right. Well, yeah. Maybe even starting this side even a bit darker, because I think we did go down a shade anyway. You know? Probably makes sense. But I'll leave the 1 pixel where it's like that is part of the line that separates the vertebra. But under here is the shadow that this nub casts on it. I think sometimes if you have like a strong impression on the left side here, we can get away with a little less detail over here. Let's see. Is this color? Yeah, okay. So I guess we're gonna have to have the start of the ribs right off the side here too. Although with the arm raised, it almost looks like light should shine on them more. We could do the opposite. We could maybe have it stick out from here. But you don't have a ton of room for that. Well, we could do that and then maybe highlight like light reflected around the sides more. Like that. Let me workshop that a bit. Because you want a little bit of this shade. The arm only folds in like so much here. But for the most part, it almost looks like light from the front should reflect around a bit. I think that looks pretty good. No, not that. I think that looks better. Yeah. Yeah. So it's almost like flipping it and doing the opposite, and having a bit of a different pattern than here so that we can have the highlights on this side. And just like more shading towards the spine. So I guess so sometimes when the shape and like number of pixels change between frames and just the overall orientation of some, like sometimes something squishes or whatever, and you might have, these three bands separated by a pixel each, but if the whole thing became a pixel shorter, then you would lose a pixel and you wouldn't be able to have three distinct bands. In terms of like colors and highlights, sometimes you want to pick like what the most important thing to track between frames is, because I'm there are certain things I'll track between frames, and then everything around it will have to be a compromise. So I think in this case, the most important thing to track between frames and make sure that it gives the impression of like your eye is looking at that for motion would be the highlights, because they're sort of telling you the shape of the rib. See what I mean? Now everything around that might have to be a bit of a compromise depending on how much space I have for pixels, but if the highlights stay, this rib cage now looks like it's moving down and to the right by 1 pixel, because the highlights are going to be the most important thing to draw your eye. That might not be the right. No, I guess so. See, now the shape has changed a bit. I'm just adding one because I think I'm going to lose it here a little bit. Yeah, as it sort of twists and the arm comes over and they bend back with the rib cage a little bit, we're losing the bottom one a little bit. But if I just decided on every frame, no matter what, I have to put 3 bands, and I find I have extra room up here, then that motion would be broken by the extra one appearing somewhat. Like it looks like it's almost on treads, and that a new one is coming in, so it shouldn't. And then I guess the rough volume of that really darkest shadow should be about the same. let's take a look at that. Pretty good, I'd say. It's tough. I mean, there's a little bit of wonkiness around the arm, but I think I'm gonna just have to workshop that when it adds the arm. I am drawing directly over the like reverse of the original sprite, so I'm making it exactly the same shape, but what I can do is then hide that layer afterwards, and then do pixel tweaks on it that are going to make the whole thing more consistent and all that. Because it doesn't have to be pixel by pixel the exact same shape as the front sprite, but it works as a good base. All right, so we got the rib cage from the back. What should I do next? The hand might be the easiest. I'm putting off the skull because when I have such a wide, like, broad area and all that I can really do with it is, like, you know, shine it up. It's a little hard. Like, I almost want to break it down into more smaller sections. But I kind of like how the shape of that like highlight looks. I was maybe struggling with having it be too simple by having it to the edges like that. Does it look better with a little bit of... It kind of does, actually. You know what? Hold that thought. I will... Maybe a bit wider over here. That'll at least go on as like a large highlight, I think. And then... Okay, yeah. So I guess everything from... That might also... Shiny bald head of a skeleton. Yep. I want to put maybe like a crack in it or something, like something to break up the like broad area of one color, which is, you should have that sometimes in your character designs, because like I say, you want like I mean, this was for animation I was talking about, but for character design too, you want contrast of color, texture, and shape. And when everything is very, very textured around here, I guess a contrast of texture is fine. I just think like sometimes with how detailed some of the other stuff is, that like a broad area with like just one highlight is a little... it can stand out more if the shape isn't right. Do skeletons actually have cracks in the skull? Yeah, they do, actually. I'm looking at it right. They have like a triangular sort of... it'd be like that. Yeah, you're right. I should actually just put that in. So the highlight actually would be... Well, it might be kind of... It wouldn't be like it would be on 3 separate objects, because that would run through and it'd be like relatively flush with the back. Oh, hi, Machine Angels. I didn't realize it was you. Yeah. So probably put the crack in, but then maybe have the highlights still be kind of over that general area. So I guess each highlight, I leave a pixel on the side to stay consistent. Maybe I might extend it farther that way, because now it's getting smaller. Okay, that shape is relatively consistent. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty consistent, I would say. Okay, so let's see about adding that crack. I'll just pick a center on each frame. And then I guess, um, well, from about here, you'd have a line going up. Do I like how that looks though? Because it'd be, if it was darker than the highlight, because it's a line, but it runs through the highlight, it might look like that, but it's a bit rough. If it only comes like partway up from the top or partway up from the bottom, might look better. Might also be that I need to sort of remove part of these lines. Thank you, Tyson. Probably, yeah, it looks like the implication of it. It kind of looks better with the couple pixels removed from each line. See, like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I think maybe it actually should be longer. This one should be longer. Then I guess cover up the base of it everywhere that it appears. "4:14 a.m." What are you doing up? Wow. Yeah, it makes sense. Christmas and summertime. Where are you from? Like what country? New Zealand. Yeah, I was gonna guess Australia, but pretty close. Should the chin be darker? Probably, yeah. Because if you're just seeing the jaw like through a hole, it should be pretty shaded in there. Glad I didn't say Australian. Yeah, I figured. I'm guessing. I don't know. What I'm trying to think of, like, um, areas where you could say it'd be summertime around Christmas time, but that also celebrate Christmas, which actually is probably a lot of countries if you're talking about the whole like southern hemisphere. But Australia would have been my first guess. New Zealand's one of the few countries that sees the sunrise first. Low key pretty. Yeah, the whole country seems very pretty. I would love to go one day. Much better than whatever's going on in the US right now. Yep. Luckily, I'm Canadian. Oh, or lucky-ish, because they're certainly giving us a hard time right now. Welcome all people. Love meeting new people, even though you hate going outside. Well, yeah. Putting a tariff on that, don't agree with it. Yeah. Oh god, the tariff situation is. I'm gonna have to pay $110 from Mario Kart World. Actually, that's not even because of tariffs. That's just inflation. But oh, I managed to pre-order it though, and I'm apparently they're saying that the prices might go up after the first round. Like they guaranteed a price on launch, and then they might not be able to after that. New Zealand's the first country to get Nintendo games before Japan. Oh, do they just launch like I guess like the digital when it becomes the next day first in New Zealand? Do you get it before everybody? That'd be pretty sick. Said the CEO. Somewhere it said the CEO just loves New Zealand or something like that. You don't know how you get the release first. Oh, you mean like actual like release day is earlier sometimes in New Zealand? I think it is on some games, right? I feel like I've seen that in the past. Oh yeah, no, that's sick then. If you get a full day or like several days early, that's really cool. Even though you're a day ahead of the world, it's like Saturday 4:21 a.m. I guess that's not a bad day to wake up super early then. At least it's a weekend. If you need a nap, go nap. Yeah, fair. Sometimes you just be coding and all of a sudden it's 4 a.m. and you need another coffee to keep coding. I've been better about that lately. Like, I pulled a lot of all-nighters when I was in school for assignments. And, being that I want to make my game, I want to be more obsessive, but I found I've been better at keeping my balance of my time to do it and getting sleep. Used to code scripts for 5 in Lua, and it wasn't in the spot anymore. And then you found Godot. Hasn't been the same since. Yeah, that's good. I mean, sleep is good too, but when you need it. But no, it's good to be really passionate about whatever you're working on, because that's what gets you through. So yeah, Machine Angels, you were right about lightening up the jaw. So we do that, and then this ends up looking a little bit too dark, but just only around the edges, so then I can add highlights. And that brings it out a bit more. But I took everything down a shade to start with. And then, yeah, you're right, that does look better. But then this, especially in the front highlight, might not see it here because it kind of looks like you rotated the head back a bit. Well, I should probably still put just a little bit. Wondering if maybe the cracks up at the top could still be a little lighter. Yeah, that looks pretty good too. Guess it's a matter of how do you get around the lack of interfaces in Godot, Tyson? Oh yeah, I think me and you talked about that, but yeah, However Tyson's does it would be interesting. Just fill in these pixels and then I'll read that. I see you guys are typing. I want to know. Virtual function interfaces using Godot for like 4 to 6 days now, and all overwhelming. But you reckon you'll get to a point where it does feel like it does lack in that respect. Okay, yeah. So you're pretty new to Godot. Not really used to game engines as a whole since you mainly coded in VSC. Yeah, I don't know Lua at all, but I do find so. Actually, I think I told you the other day to make sure that you turn on enforcing static typing, right? And then, yeah, you wouldn't necessarily in 4 to 6 days have run into the lack of interfaces, but that would have been very useful to have. I assume Lua has that. you'd switch to Godot if Godot had interfaces. But also, as you do more and more programming, you want to give it a shot at doing your own small game engine. That'd be really cool. It'd be tough, but it'd be fun. I was just Googling, like, how do most other people get around interfaces in Godot? And yeah, there's different ways to get around it, but it would just be nice if it had it natively. A few games out there that have done just that because game engines don't have what they want, like Noida. Yeah, if you want something really custom, um, I have no idea how Noida achieved what it achieved either. Like, Noida's crazy. Pray the function exists in Godot case for interfaces or EMs. I Yeah, the way I usually do it is like if I need a function to exist when I'm calling an object, it's like I gotta just trust myself and my own like design. Like, definitely it could be a problem if it didn't, if the method, if I try to call a method on an object that didn't exist and I had no way of checking that, but I just don't, and then kick myself when I do it and it is wrong. Like manually going in and putting in the um um method that it needs, but or only calling stuff that has those methods. Like I basically structure everything the same. Like if I have like templates for certain types of things. Like enemies have a certain template, and then skills have a certain template, and it's like they just need to have they just need to have it. If it's missing, it's going to be a problem. You have a game idea revolving around physics and advanced limb dismemberment that you know you couldn't do with existing game engines. Interesting. I would say that it sounds like from other people who have done it that making a game engine is, for most people, not an exercise in getting to the point where you're making the game you want, but it's an exercise in making a game engine, which is super cool. But it's so much work that like that's that's the project. I don't know. I don't know how you get to the point of like finishing a game engine and then also like making a game on top of that, but yeah, try it out for sure. Done a bit of OpenGL rendering. Takes so much work, but you're determined to make it happen. Well, that is probably the best indication that it definitely could happen then. That's why learning is fun. It may not be your current skill set, but it could be your current skill set. That's the best attitude to have with anything game dev, especially like there's so much we have to do on our own. I felt that way about art. I I had a few people reach out even like as early as my first couple of devlogs and offer to make music for the game, and I'm like, great, like I want to keep that contact in mind, in case I need to buy any music or whatever. Like, and I was in communication with them, and I'm like, way too early. I'm not ready to put music in my game, and I'm not trying to market it yet because it's not even done. But I'm like, yeah, I'll put that contact away, and I appreciate the interest so much. But at the same time, I was like, I kind of want to learn to make music. I'm not even musical at all, but I kind of want to learn it. And then I learned some of it, maybe enough to do some of it, and then maybe have to shell out a bit of money to somebody who can help me finish music. But like, I would love to make a couple of pieces myself. Make the most dungeon wakey music I can. Yep. Dungeon wacky music. Yeah, I don't know. I learned a lot about music theory, and I'm finding it's where I was at with art now. Like I can look at being happy with some of the art I've made, and like for example, this there's only a few sprites in the game. This took 10 hours, and then like I'm working on the back sprite. And it's like I only have a few things in the game. I've been working on more code than art, but like I can do things, and I have things that I can look at that I'm like, I'm proud of this. It did well. I'm at the point now with music where I was where I okay, I have FL Studio, and do I have an idea for the type of music I want for the game? Still struggling with that. This is what I'm going to talk about too. Is like it feels like musical doodling, because where I was at with art was I would maybe doodle something and then I'd be like, oh, it looks like crap, throw it away. I should have been saving a lot of doodles, really, or like rough drafts, but I tended to just draw something and then close the program, not save even the file. And I'm at that point with music now because I learned a bunch of music theory, and I have FL Studio. And FL Studio, if you don't pay for it, you get all the features, and you can save your files, but you can't reload them again unless you have the paid version. And then when you pay for it, you can get all your files back or whatever. But other than that, you can play with it to your heart's content. So I'm at that point. I mean, partly it's because of that, but also I'm like, every time I open FL Studio and I try out an idea, I just like work up a little song or whatever, and then I close it and I never see it again because you can't anyway. But I'm not paying for it yet. But I think I would be like that anyway because I'm at that like doodling stage where I'm like, you make something and you're like, that's not real. Like that's not a real idea. Throw it out. But I think the more you do that, like eventually it'll click. I find I think I understand some stuff from what I've tried to learn about, but it's just not my training at all. So I'm like, I have a hard time coming up with ideas. Like, I understand like some things make sense when I put them into the FL Studio, but I'm like coming up with the idea of like sitting down and being like, what kind of song do I want to make? What is it trying to communicate? Like, what specifically, like what kind of things is it going through from beginning to end, and that's it's the same problem. It feels like the same problem I had with art of like finishing a project versus just like scribbling a few techniques based on something I had learned about and not actually finishing it. So it's kind of like musical doodling at this point, but I'm hoping to get to the point if I do it enough that I'm like, all right, no, I'm sitting down, I'm finishing a whole song. It's for my game. It's gonna be finished, done, a complete project. Because a lot of what I do is not like based on like very deep understanding from having a musical background. Because I don't. It's like you see a video on like 8-bit music theory about like different kinds of musical modes and scales, and then I'm like, hey, it's an RPG. It needs battle music. I know now that like the Phrygian scale sounds threatening because somebody told me so, and I go in the FL Studio and I load up like the Phrygian scale highlighting, and then I play around and I make a tune, and then sometimes it's like, yeah, I listen to it back and I'm like, that sounds kind of threatening, but it doesn't communicate like a specific idea. Yeah, most artists hardly know anything about music theory. They just press chords, which is kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, I understand different musical modes have different feelings and like stuff like that, but I don't know. Chord progressions, like the kind of understanding I understand like when a chord moving to another chord feels like a stronger movement versus a weaker movement, but I'm trying to figure out like when do I want to do that? When do I want something to feel over a progression of like telling a story over a song? I don't have that intuition yet where I'm like, when do I want things to feel like I'm moving strongly to a sad minor note? When do I want things to kind of move at like what feel like an extension of like a threatening sounding chord? When do I want things to feel like at what point in the song do I want things to feel dissonant? I know something sounds dissonant, but when do I want that to happen? So I don't have that intuition yet. I think what I'm doing is a good approaching of just doodling and see what comes out. That's yeah. I feel like I've learned a lot. I feel like every time I find out about a new idea, and I've been watching like music theory videos, I'll like load it up and then I'll play with different versions of that and see how it sounds. Um, so it's I don't know. It's like getting like more of a palette. Um, but and eventually I'm hoping that someday it's just gonna like click into play. Like after a lot of my code and a lot of my art is done, someday the music part is just going to like click into place all of a sudden, and I'll be able to do some of it. And I think learning a lot of different things at the same time for game dev helps mix things up, because some days I feel like doing art, sometimes I feel like doing code, and sometimes I feel like going into FL Studio and not actually producing anything but just playing around and saying that that was a productive day. But and it will be if I get there. I think for the hands, I can more or less copy a bunch of the shading. It wouldn't look that different from the front and the back, because this barely looks like a palm already. Would I be super cheap if I just straight up? Wait, where did that go? Oh, that's not what I had copied. Oops. What am I selecting here? It might be a good base, and then I was like maybe the back of the hand just has like more broader areas of solid color, so I'd just kind of expand that a bit. Although, I don't know, that looks a little rough. Honestly, the original just looks better than when I just tried to adjust it. Maybe we do that as a quick. I mean, sometimes you do gotta cut these corners. I'm very stubborn about doing everything myself, but I'm also stubborn about even the stuff I do myself. I'm like not even having copy and pasted and reusing my own stuff. So I'm like, um, if you want to get anything done, you do have to get out of that headspace of like, okay, every pixel doesn't need to be bespoke. Oh. I keep pressing copy instead of. What am I copying? The hell? There. Okay, so this is going in front of the head, so we can actually adjust that a bit where it's like it shouldn't have highlights on the area where it's passing behind the head. So that's an area where it would look a bit different. Yeah, you stop being a perfectionist after trying to make your first game, and you still gotta have quality, of course. Yeah. Wonder where Tyson's going. I don't know. Could be asleep. They were up all night. Could have crashed out. Ah, they're here. So I think, yeah, I basically copied it, but then when it passed behind the head, adding more shadows looks pretty acceptable, I think. This time way too perfect. You were literally sitting right there being pixel perfect. Yeah. This this hand is the first thing I've copied and pasted and just reused for my own pixel art, but you're probably going to see more and more of that the longer it goes. I mean, but you know, the front, it's hard to get the hand shape to be hand shape. Like, I think it's okay. I actually think what I had in mind was that it was more like this. Like he was just kind of holding his hand like that. That's what that's so it is already supposed to be the back of the hand. But honestly, if he's just in a different pose, like from the front, he'd be like this, and from the back, he'd be like that. But that's acceptable. Like he could do that. Why does the hand look like he's about to throw a glove at you and declare a duel? He's ready to fight, man. He is. It's come a pretty long way. I got the 2 arms, 2 legs, and the pelvis to do still, but this area looks a little too yellow. Like I feel like I broke this up good enough, and then I was pretty light on the shadow. But then from the front, it's kind of light as well, except for the fact that I have more details because I have the face. I'm just wondering if... I guess maybe I could, like, shade it like that. Just on the bottom edge. Maybe something like that will come later. He's one grimy duelist. I think I kind of based it on like a fencing pose. I mean, I only have enough room to extend in this little square, and that's part of the constraint of designing character, because I don't draw my characters on paper. I just doodle the silhouette, and then I design everything around it in the first idle pose. So this motion of like holding your hand back and having your sword out, I did fencing for like a month or two. I've done it before. I think I don't know if I had that in mind when I drew this, but his skelly cheeks look so much more alluring without texture. Yeah. Yeah, they had a fencing club at my university one time. And I knew the guy who was like running it pretty much. And he asked me to join, and then it was pretty fun, and we learned how to do it. And then I think he went through like 2 months, and then I don't know, there was talk of like maybe being able to do some kind of competitions, but that didn't come about. And then same guy like restarted it and was like got a new group of people to like learn from scratch, but it was like basically the same lessons from the beginning. And I think I just stopped after that because I was like, okay, well, that was fun. I could do the same thing again, but it doesn't sound like we're gonna have a competition. Fun though. You have one of the medical skeletons in the corner of your room. That's pretty cool. trying to figure out. The back of the hand's going to look different for sure. The arms might be almost identical. Like, I feel like you should see this gap from the back too. Maybe get more of an elbow cap on there. Well, this is more of like a crease in the inside of the elbow, so probably would be different. The thing is, I don't want to copy like this like I've done a bunch, but it's the easiest way to get consistency too. Maybe just this elbow or this arm. Up to the elbow. Did I draw the skeleton base first and then texture it? Like for the original? Let's see. The original, I drew this with my actual silhouette. Actually, I don't know where the red came from. The red was not part of it. That might have been something that got left over from some other thing. Layer right arm is hidden, but that's not the one I want to do. Oh, wait. Maybe I cut off a bit of the sword here by accident. But anyway, yeah, I drew this silhouette, which actually doesn't line up with the actual final shape. But I kind of just, what I do is a silhouette, and then I try to fit it into this square, and I try to make sure that the silhouette is good in so far as that, like, each limb, each part of its body has a clear silhouette. If they're holding a weapon, I can see the weapon. So I thought maybe, yeah, like a curved sword out here and then holding their arm up there. Like some parts of a body will overlap. If you don't have that, then you're just going to have like a star shaped character or whatever. Like, but, which I think maybe some of my silhouettes spread out a bit too much because of that. But like the things you want to move, especially, and things you want to draw attention to. So like weapons and, well, whatever part of the body moves. So I drew a silhouette, and then let's see, that's a background. Okay. Oh, it looks like I did a lot of the shading on top. So these layers don't have the final shading on them. Oh, right arm. Apparently I did all my shading on the right arm layer for some reason. So there should be a right arm too, but I usually block them out in solid colors. So this might all be like this, or like one color. And then maybe I later divide them into sections. So I'm like, I need a jaw. I'll draw the details of the face and then have that be consistent between frames. The sword, I wanted like a midline and the hilt. These lines to tell me where like the ribs and sternum are. And maybe a separation between the thigh and the foot. And then I kind of have this in mind. Like, this is rough because sometimes details get mixed into layers just while I'm doing it. But like, I'll do the silhouette, which will be really rough. Then I'll like draw each like blocked out body part on its own layer in one single color. Might even have. No, I don't think I do. I thought I maybe had one open where I showed that to somebody else one time. But yeah, so block it out in one color and then really workshop the shape. Like this shape is pretty much the final shape because the shape of the blocks that I draw on top of the silhouette is worked out so that they make sense. And I make the skull like more round around the cranium. The hand shape makes sense. The shape of the sword makes sense, and that's in the blocks of color that I usually do it. Then I'll subdivide those shapes. So if I have a whole layer for the right leg, then for example, I just put this little joint here so that I have a subdivision, and then this is a subdivision where I thought the toes might end up. And then I usually animate like that. So everything except for right arm, and it's missing a right arm because I did the blocked out and subdivided, and then I also shaded in the right arm layer, so I just have to hide it. But this is what would be animated. That's typically what I animate. And then all the shading goes on after. So then when I do shading, I try to keep it consistent where like I shade a little bit at a time in one frame. So like if I put a little bit of shading in this eye, let's say I am like, okay, that needs to be darker. I want to give it more of a sense of being like more of a crevice, whatever. Then I'll go to the next frame and I'll make sure that it's the same 2 pixels. Sometimes it changes the number of pixels if it really changes like dramatically, but that it has a logic that it follows from frame to frame, and that I'm consistent with that. And you just do little bits and pieces at a time, and then every single detail, including like it's not literally on another layer, but each shade or each shading is like an object that I track across frames, and I just give it a logic that I follow. Like, for example, this highlight, when I was going in and placing the highlight in every frame, I was giving it the logic of like, okay, it seems to sit right between the end pixels of this top layer, and then it seems to have another layer down here that does the same. Then this one stretches across, and then it goes down by 3. And you can't do that perfectly in every frame, then you have to make compromises. And you check the 2 frames, and you're like, am I losing mass by following the exact same logic? And then if you are, then like adjust it slightly, and then maybe the next frame over from that one follows the logic of the previous frame. So the logic might shift, but it all comes from like a similar root, if that makes sense. I'm just gonna read all this Tony lore because I missed it while I was. Cat used to fight him. Pretty good. Yeah, we got 4 cats at home. They're a lot to deal with now. We had recently. We have 4 cats now, and then we babysat 3 for a family member for like a week and a half. So we had 7 cats running around our house for like a week and a half. That just happened. You had 12. Wow. That's a lot. I'm going to do some shading on the arm, but I kind of blocked out these areas as like a shoulder blade, and I think I'm going to adjust the shape and try to get that consistent, because maybe I'll just do a different color so I can really keep an eye on it. Yeah, that looks good. Oh, see, Titan's just joined the Discord. Awesome. Yeah, sounds good. I gotta figure out like what I want to do with it. It's so far been a chat room between me and Machine Angel. Uh, I gotta know, yeah, what kind of I don't use Discord much, uh, so I need to figure out like what type of things kind of belong in there, for people who follow my stuff. But like some of them I'm in just to like lurk for things that updates that on certain communities that I'm interested in, but I've I've never managed one, and I wouldn't even say I'm really managing this one. It's just like it has been me letting Machine Angels know what's going on because they've been in there. You're born a Twitch lurker, counted as a +1 viewer inside the womb. Yeah. Woomfi. Entered your message calling them a peasant. I don't know. I see it. I don't know if because I'm the streamer. If I just see everything. Wait, let me go on the. Hmm. I don't know. I don't know why it would be. Oh yeah, I guess from your perspective, it's like you've been having this friendly conversation, and then you're like, "Whoa, did he just cuss me out? What the hell? Why? Why would you say that?" I'm just gonna like go in and like ban the word peasant in my chat and confuse the hell out of everybody. I'm not gonna do that. This is what I mean by following the same logic of the shading, right? So like these shoulder blades, I had to adjust by a couple pixels. I want them to look like they rotate a little bit on one of the frames, but they're mostly just moving over. So with the shape consistent, like you leave 1 pixel on the side here and then 2 at the top, and then it kind of like snakes down. You don't skip any pixels down this side because I want it to be a bit thicker, and then comes across the bottom and then up diagonal 1 pixel, just a little bit of like specular highlighting. So then if I do the same here, oops, what I meant to do, it would look like that. And then that shoulder blade is consistent between frames. And then sometimes you want to add a little bit of imperfection. Well, that's too much. But even just like a single pixel where it just changes a little bit and then it doesn't look like you're just transplanting the object over. Yeah, man, you can't say you're going to ban somebody's shoelaces. Like, the kind of community I'm cultivating here, you're going to get me banned. That's too much. That's pretty good. Gotta go in a few minutes. I actually do too. I actually have to go now. I didn't realize how late it was. I'm sorry to end it abruptly. I gotta go now. I'm glad I read your message. You were about to leave. Sorry, Tysons, if you were gonna stick around longer, and I didn't warn you. Yeah, I have to like leave the house in 3 minutes, so I'm gonna actually end the stream right now. But I thank you both for being here. Yeah, when am I gonna do it next? I might be able to pull off a weekend, but if not, Monday. And yeah, hope to see you both then. It's been fun. Have a good weekend, and see you next time.